Fear. It's that tightness in your chest, the sweaty palms, the sudden urge to forget everything and run, and nothing triggers it quite like public speaking. The moment you stand up, all eyes on you, your voice betrays you, your mind goes blank, and suddenly you feel like a helpless gladiator thrown into the arena. But what if I told you that fear isn't the enemy? What if the secret to commanding a room, to speaking with unshakable confidence, isn't about getting rid of fear, but mastering it? The ancient Stoics had a brutal yet effective way of dealing with fear. They didn't fight it, they didn't run from it. They leaned into it, owned it, and used it as fuel. And that's exactly what you're going to learn today. This isn't your typical, just picture the audience in their underwear advice. No, this is about rewiring your mindset at its core, a mindset that has been battle-tested for centuries, one that will turn your fear into a weapon, not a weakness. So if you're tired of letting anxiety silence you, if you're ready to step up, own your voice and speak with the clarity and force of a warrior, then stick around. Because by the end of this video, you won't just face your fear of public speaking, you'll dominate it. Let's begin. Number 1. The orator's funeral rehearsal. Here's something nobody wants to admit. The fear of public speaking isn't really about speaking. It's about dying. No, not literally, but think about it. That racing heart, sweaty palms, and that tiny voice in your head screaming, "What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I look like a complete idiot?" It's not stage fright, it's ego fright. The fear of looking foolish, losing credibility, being laughed at. It's social death. And that's exactly why you need to rehearse your own funeral. I know, sounds dark, but hear me out. The Stoics had a practice called premeditatio malorum, basically visualizing the worst-case scenario so that when, or if, it happens, it feels like an old friend instead of a monster in the dark. So if your fear of public speaking is rooted in the dread of humiliation, why not confront it head-on? Picture the absolute worst. The microphone screeches, your mind goes blank, someone in the audience chuckles, someone else checks their phone. Maybe you even trip on your way to the podium. Let it happen in your mind. Own it. Sit with the discomfort. Feel the failure before it even arrives. Because once you've mentally survived your public speaking funeral, you'll realize there's nothing left to be afraid of. You know the type of fear I'm talking about. That tightening in your chest before you speak. The awkward throat clearing. The way you over-rehearse every word, only to forget it all the moment you step up. We've all been there, and if you're anything like me, you've probably even avoided situations where you had to speak in front of others. But ask yourself, what's actually at stake? Are people going to chase you out of the room with torches and pitchforks? Will your reputation crumble into dust? Of course not. But in your mind, the stakes feel life or death. That's the illusion we need to break. Now, here's the twist. Instead of just passively imagining the worst, lean into it actively. Want to make this real? The next time you're about to speak, before you even open your mouth, expect failure. Tell yourself, I might forget my words, I might stumble, someone might judge me, so what? And then, laugh. Seriously, laugh at the absurdity of it all, because once you strip fear of its power, what's left? Just words, just you, standing there, speaking like you've done 1,000 times before in conversations. I tried this once in a meeting where I had to present an idea to my team. Normally, I'd be a nervous wreck, rehearsing my lines in my head like it was life or death. But this time, I walked in telling myself, all right, worst case, I bomb. I sound ridiculous. Someone rolls their eyes. Who cares? And when I got up to speak, I actually felt that fear creep in. My voice wavered for a split second, but then, instead of fighting it, I let it happen. I mentally shrugged and thought, this is my funeral, right? Let's enjoy it. And you know what? Nothing bad happened. In fact, I spoke better than ever because I wasn't gripping onto perfection. I was letting go of the fear. This is about reclaiming your power, your voice, your ability to walk into a room and own the space without the weight of imaginary failure crushing your chest. Most people will spend their entire lives dodging discomfort, avoiding risk, playing it safe. Not you. You're someone who practices dying before you live. Someone who's already faced the worst and laughed at it. And if you can stand in the ashes of your own imaginary failure and still keep going, congratulations, you're fearless. Number 2, the silence challenge. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in complete silence? No phone, no music, no small talk, just you and your own thoughts. Sounds simple, right? But here's the twist. I'm not just talking about silence around you. I'm talking about the kind of silence that makes people uncomfortable. The silence you hold when you resist the urge to fill gaps in conversation. The silence that forces you to truly listen. The silence that makes you realize just how much noise you've been drowning in. And if that idea makes you squirm just a little bit, then congratulations. You've just found your next challenge. We've all been there. That awkward pause in a conversation where you feel this unbearable need to jump in and say something, anything to smooth it over. Or maybe you're in a group and someone asks a question, and even though you don't really have an answer, you blurt something out just to avoid looking uninvolved. We do this all the time. We talk to escape discomfort. We talk to prove we belong. We talk to feel in control. But here's the problem. When you can't handle silence, you become its prisoner. Because if you can't sit in silence with confidence, it means you're speaking out of fear. And anything done out of fear is never done from a place of power. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, so what? Am I supposed to just stop talking? Not exactly, but hear me out. The next time you're in a conversation, resist the urge to fill the silence. When someone finishes speaking, don't immediately respond. Let the air hang for a second. Let the weight of your own presence settle. Feel the tension and own it. Watch how people react. You'll notice something fascinating. The person you're talking to will start feeling the pressure instead of you. They'll fill the gap. They'll offer more information. They'll try to win back the control that you just claimed without saying a single word. I tried this for the first time during a meeting at work. Normally, I'd be the guy jumping in with quick responses, making sure I sounded engaged, proving I had something to contribute. But that day, I just stopped. When my boss asked for thoughts, I waited. I didn't rush. I didn't fill the air with nervous chatter. I let the silence stretch a little longer than was comfortable. And guess what? It worked. Instead of looking unprepared, I looked deliberate. Instead of feeling anxious, I felt composed. And when I finally spoke, my words carried more weight, because I wasn't just talking to talk, I was talking with intention. This isn't just about conversations, it's about training yourself to be unfazed by the absence of noise. When you master silence, you stop reacting. You start observing. You gain the power to choose when and how you engage, instead of being pulled into the frantic energy of every interaction. And the best part, you start valuing your own voice more. You stop wasting words. You stop feeling like you need to constantly explain yourself. You realize that silence isn't empty, it's full of power. So here's your challenge. Spend one full day in voluntary silence. No unnecessary talking. No small talk, no social media commentary. Just listen, watch, hold your words back and see what happens. At first it'll feel strange. You'll feel like you're disappearing. But then something shifts. You start noticing things, people's habits, their unspoken thoughts, the way they scramble to fill the void that you're now comfortable in. And that's when you'll realize you've just reclaimed something most people never will. control over your own voice. Number 3, verbal gladiator training. Most people think confidence in public speaking comes from practice, preparation, maybe even memorizing a few breathing techniques. But let me tell you a secret. The real test isn't on stage. It's out there, in the unpredictable, messy world of human interaction. If you can handle the chaos of real-life conversations, public speaking will feel like a warm-up, and that's why you need verbal gladiator training. Now, you might be thinking, gladiator? What am I, Russell Crowe? Relax. No one's throwing you into an arena with a sword. But think about it. What's the scariest part of public speaking? It's not the speech itself. It's the unexpected. It's losing your train of thought, someone interrupting, getting a tough question you didn't prepare for. That fear. That's exactly why you need to train where things are unpredictable, in real-world conversations where you don't have a script, where people cut you off, where silence stretches too long, and where sometimes you just have to improvise. We've all been in those moments. You're at a meeting, and someone challenges your point. You're in a social setting, and the conversation suddenly dies, leaving you scrambling for words. Or maybe you've been stuck in one of those painfully awkward encounters where you say something, and the response is nothing. Dead air. A polite nod at best. And instead of owning the silence, you rush to fill it with nervous rambling. That's the weakness we're fixing today. So here's the challenge. Every day, put yourself in at least one conversation where you have to think on your feet. Walk up to a stranger and start a conversation. Ask for a discount at a coffee shop just to see how you handle pushback. Share an opinion in a group setting that might stir a little debate. And the most important rule? No escaping, no backing down, no nervous apologies. Stay in it. Hold your ground. I remember the first time I tried this. I was at a networking event, one of those places where small talk is practically a competitive sport. Normally, I'd stick to safe, neutral topics, but that night, I decided to test myself. I jumped into a heated conversation about a controversial business trend. My heart was racing, my brain was scrambling for words, but instead of panicking, I leaned into it. I slowed down. I let people challenge me, and instead of rushing to defend myself, I let the moment breathe. I asked questions. I took control of the conversation, not by talking more, but by talking better. And that was when I realized confidence isn't about having all the right words. It's about trusting yourself to handle whatever comes next. This is about reclaiming control in conversations, in meetings, in life. When you train yourself to hold your own in unpredictable interactions, public speaking stops feeling like an execution and starts feeling like a performance you own. No more second-guessing, no more rambling, no more shrinking back. You speak, you stand, you stay. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be ready. And that's what makes you a verbal gladiator. Number 4, mockery mastery. Let's be honest, nobody likes being mocked. It's embarrassing, it's frustrating, and sometimes it's just plain infuriating. Whether it's a sarcastic jab in a meeting, a playful but stinging remark from a friend, or that one person who always seems to have the perfect insult locked and loaded, mockery can throw us off balance. And when that happens, we usually respond in one of two ways. We either shrink in silence, letting the words dig into our confidence, or we overreact, giving them exactly what they wanted, a show. But what if I told you there's a third way? A way to not only deflect mockery, but to own it so completely that it loses all power over you. Welcome to Mockery Mastery. We've all been there. Someone throws a jab at you in front of others. Maybe it's about the way you talk, the way you dress, or something you did. The room waits, watching for your reaction. You feel the heat rise in your chest, that mix of embarrassment and anger. Your mind races. Do I clap back? Do I ignore it? Do I laugh along even though it stings? The worst part? You're stuck playing defense, and that's exactly where they want you. Here's the trick. The moment you show that mockery affects you, you've lost. The person mocking you feeds off your reaction, but if you take control of the moment, if you flip the game entirely, you turn their words into nothing more than wasted breath. And the best way to do that? Agree and exaggerate. Sounds counterintuitive, right? But hear me out. The next time someone mocks you, don't defend yourself. Don't argue. Own it, loudly, proudly, and ridiculously. If someone says, "Wow, you really overthink everything," don't get defensive. Say, "Oh, absolutely. I've already analyzed this conversation from 6 different angles, and honestly, I think I could have made it weirder." If they mock your enthusiasm, saying, "Dude, you take everything so seriously," just lean in. You have no idea. I even take breakfast choices seriously. Yesterday I had a full existential crisis over toast. The key is to take their words and amplify them until they're absurd. I tried this once at a dinner party where someone kept making fun of my habit of checking my watch too often. Normally I'd feel self-conscious, maybe even stop doing it. But that night I decided to have fun with it. When they said, "Dude, are you timing us or something?" I gasped dramatically and said, "Oh my God, you figured it out. Yes, this is actually a top-secret social experiment, and I have precisely 32 seconds left before I must report back to my boss." The whole table laughed, including the guy who made the joke. But more importantly, the teasing stopped. Why? Because I didn't fight it. I made it my own. This isn't just about being witty, it's about taking back control. When you react with irritation or insecurity, you give the mockery weight. But when you exaggerate and embrace it, you drain it of power. You shift from being the target to being the one steering the moment. And that's real confidence. So, next time someone tries to mock you, don't play defense. Play the game better. Number 5, speech on the edge. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff. Below you, the drop is dizzying, unknown, unpredictable, maybe even terrifying. Your heart pounds, your breath shortens, and your mind races through 1,000 what-ifs. Now, replace that cliff with a stage, and suddenly, that fear feels a little too familiar, doesn't it? The fear of speaking, the fear of putting your voice, your thoughts, and your presence out into the world is no different from standing on the edge of something vast and uncertain. But here's the truth. The edge isn't where fear wins. It's where transformation begins. We've all been there. You're in a meeting, and your point is valid, maybe even brilliant, but you hesitate. Your throat tightens, your palms sweat, and before you can speak, someone else jumps in. Or maybe you're at a social gathering, itching to contribute to a conversation, but you hold back, convinced your words won't land right. And then there's the ultimate nightmare, the big speech, the big presentation, the moment where all eyes are on you. Your body reacts as if you're about to wrestle a wild animal. Why? Because your brain, that ancient survival machine, sees public speaking as a threat. But what if I told you that fear isn't your enemy? That edge, the trembling anticipation, the rush of adrenaline, that's not a sign to retreat. That's your body powering you up. It's preparing you to own the moment. The problem isn't the fear itself, it's our interpretation of it. Instead of seeing it as a signal to stop, what if we saw it as a push forward? I learned this the hard way. Years ago, I had to give a speech at a company event. I was prepared, notes, slides, everything. But right before I stepped onto the stage, my mind whispered, "What if you forget everything? What if you stumble? What if they see right through you?" And for a second, I wanted to turn and run. But then something clicked. I thought, what if this isn't fear? What if this is just energy waiting to be used? So instead of shrinking from it, I leaned in. I let the nervousness fuel my delivery. And what happened? I didn't just get through the speech. I owned it. Here's the secret. Every great speaker still feels the edge. The difference? They don't pull back. They step into it. They reframe the fear. So the next time you feel that rush before speaking, don't fight it. Channel it. Instead of thinking, "Oh no, I'm nervous," say, "This is excitement. This is energy. This is my body gearing up for something powerful." And then take that step. Because speeches aren't made in comfort zones. Voices aren't heard from the back of the room. And confidence? It's not the absence of fear. It's the decision to speak on the edge and do it anyway. Thank you for watching. I truly hope this video gave you a fresh, powerful perspective on overcoming the fear of public speaking through the Stoic mindset. If you found this insightful, hit that like button. It really helps get this message out to more people who need it. And if you're interested in mastering your mind, your confidence, and your ability to speak with impact, subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Know someone who struggles with public speaking. Share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear, and I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to speaking in front of others? Have you ever used Stoic principles to handle fear? Let's start a conversation and build a community that helps each other grow. Remember, fear doesn't own you, you own it. And every time you step up, every time you push through the discomfort, you're not just improving your speaking skills, you're becoming stronger, more resilient, and more in control of your life. Keep challenging yourself, keep growing, and I'll see you in the next one.